And now it's time for the real news with your host, Farron.
Hello and welcome to The Real News, your Saturday call-in broadcast where we discuss the truth and report the news the sellout media doesn't cover. Our guest this week is Charlie Giles, a true 9/11 first responder from thefeelgoodfoundation.com. Many people are unaware that the state of New York and the federal government has turned their back on our 9/11 heroes, while our government passes out money all across the globe and to collapsing banks almost daily now. Sadly, they refuse to help these real Americans. It is a national tragedy that goes, of course, totally unreported by the propaganda machines called the press. He will be joining us in minutes, but before we go to that, I wanted to bring you up to date on our protest last week at the Federal Reserve Bank in Charlotte. It was a national protest. It was at all the locations across the United States. The one in New York, approximately 500 people showed up. The one in Washington, D.C., about the same. Big protest in Texas. Ron Paul was a speaker there. Of course, me, Jim, Ty, Brian, we were all at the one at the Federal Reserve in Charlotte. How many people would you say, Brian, was there?
I've estimated anywhere from 100 to 200 at various times.
We have videos of our protest. It's on our website, wearechangennc.com. Also, some are on therealnewsradio.com. But it was a great protest. It ended at 2 o'clock. There are a lot of like-minded people there. People are waking up to the fact of the Federal Reserve banking system. It's corrupt. Tell us a little more about the protest and how you felt about it, Brian.
Well, again, as Farron just mentioned, this was a nationally coordinated effort to protest the banking cartel of the Federal Reserve System. You know, as we emphasize on this broadcast time and time again, this is a private-run bank. It has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the federal government, other than, of course, charging them interest on the money they print out of thin air. This was a nationally coordinated effort organized originally by Restore the Republic. It 38 or 39 branches of the Federal Reserve around the country. We had tens of thousands of people all together at all these protests, not mentioned at all on mainstream media.
Not a bit in the mainstream media. So we were there with our cameras. We got some good video. And I'd also like to mention that Mitch joined us here from Statesville area, a real patriot. Mr. Olson was also there. We had a good turnout, something we're going to be doing more of. We plan to have a protest, or at least a sign wave, and distribute information once a month. So we were really pleased with that. And before we go to a break, bring us up to speed on our toy drive and tell the people what we're doing for the 9/11 first responders.
Yes, we're having a toy drive for the Feel Good Foundation. That's F-E-A-L Good Foundation. This is a foundation founded by John Feel, a 9/11 first responder, to help other 9/11 first responders of the September 11th disaster, in which I believe up to 50,000 rescue workers were exposed to a smorgasbord of toxins surrounding Ground Zero. The EPA told them the air was safe to breathe, nothing to worry about. Yet now there's thousands upon thousands of our nation's heroes, rescue workers, coming down with severe illnesses. The government is practically and all but abandoned them, not giving them medical care that they need or assistance. You know, our guest here in a few minutes, Charlie Giles, he's lost his home. He takes 26 medications a day. He has a mass on his lung. I mean, it's just sad.
I went out and passed out some flyers about it to some of the volunteer fire departments and spoke to some of the volunteer firemen. I only found one that was aware of this situation. Keith, one of the gentlemen that helps us out, he dropped information off at fire departments going up towards Stony Point, and also gave information to a couple of sheriff's deputies. They were very interested in the cause. So we do have a toy drive. We're going to be shipping the toys we got to ship them by December 15th.
We want them to be there by December 13th, I believe. So we'll be shipping them out. I have down as December 9th.
Okay, everything needs to be completed by December 9th. You can contact us by emailing onair@therealnewsradio.com, and if you would like to donate some toys, just email us, and me or Brian or both of us will be happy to meet you, come to your house, pick them up. You can drop them off here at the station.
And again, these responders can't even afford the medications they need, the food that they obviously need. So we're going to try to alleviate some of their holiday stress this year. Obviously, they can't afford toys for their children, and try to make their holiday season a little bit brighter.
This is something that the people, and especially our volunteer firemen, our police departments, should get behind. It should not just be the charity of the Real News Radio. It should be everyone's charity. And, of course, our mainstream press, once again, refuses to report on this situation. It is a national tragedy. So, as usual, we're going to go to a break. We're going to come back with our guest. Then after that, we're going to report some on our collapsing economy. It's just amazing what is happening in our country. And then we will go to the phones because, once again, this broadcast is for the people. It's a place where you can call in and voice your opinions and have your say. So we will go to a break, and we'll be back with Charlie Giles here in just a few minutes.
When it comes...
We're back on The Real News. We're joined with Charlie Giles, a 9/11 first responder. I would like to say to you, sir, it's an honor to have you here on The Real News today. How are you doing?
Okay, Farron, thank you very much. Brian and all your listeners, thank you for having me back on your show today.
Well, it's an honor to have you, and if you would, bring our listeners up to speed a little bit about your story from the day of 9/11 to current, if you would.
Sure. Well, as I had mentioned previously, I was pulled out of the North Tower of the Trade Center after it collapsed by a Port Authority police officer, subsequently wound up with first and second degree burns, and since 9/11 my health has deteriorated drastically. I currently take 26 medications a day, have 15 medical diagnoses. I've had 3 operations, and I walk with a cane, and the federal government is still sitting idle.
Why do you think the state of New York and the federal government has been so reluctant to help our 9/11 first responders, which are obviously heroes?
Well, I honestly, I don't believe that it's the state of New York. I think the state of New York, their hands are tied. I think this has got to come from the federal government. This has got to come from Washington. I think our current administration has failed us. They've broken their promises to us. And I believe that it's got to come from the top. And hopefully January 20th, when our new administration takes over, we are looking forward to working with them and hopefully getting this piece of legislation passed, which is H.R. 7174, and it will get renamed, it will get renumbered once the new Congress goes into session, which will assist 9/11 responders. I mean, I've lost my home, it's the holidays, and it's just not about myself. There's thousands of responders across the country. There's some right there in North Carolina that are listening to your show right now. I know that for a fact. And we've had the government turn their back on us. And, you know, I have a philosophy of being a pioneer of doing what is right. And I have brought that philosophy to the foundation I sit on, which is the Feel Good Foundation. And that philosophy is that I will keep on fighting until the government gives every 9/11 responder the dignity and respect that they have been denied and the benefits that they deserve.
Well, it sickens me to watch our sellout, bankrupt government dole out the billions around the world, and here at home to corrupt banksters, and then has the gall to refuse to help real Americans, real heroes. I think the plight of the 9/11 first responders is sad proof of how elite politicians have failed us, we the people, miserably. Why do you think the media has been so quiet on this story?
Well, and that's the biggest problem. You hit it right on the head, Farron.